Once upon a time, nestled in the misty blue hills of Vermont, there was a very special little town called Pine Brook Hollow. It wasn't big, but it was beloved, full of friendly folks who always smiled, said please and thank you, and helped one another without ever being asked. The sidewalks were swept clean, the gardens bloomed bright, and even the squirrels waited their turn at the bird feeders. Every morning, the robins and blue jays sang cheerfully in the crisp, clear air. Every evening, the sun dipped behind the hills, bathing the town in a soft orange-pink glow, like the sky itself had tucked everyone in for bed. Now, Pine Brook Hollow was home to more than just good-hearted people. It was also famous for its cats, very well-behaved cats. These cats didn't just nap all day or chase butterflies. They were dignified, refined, and unusually fashionable. And none were more dignified or fashionable than a certain short-haired ginger tabby named Jasper. Jasper was the undisputed top cat of Pine Brook Hollow. He lived in the attic suite of a big cedarwood house that sat right in the center of town, above the home of his person, Professor Maple. Jasper had his own entrance, his own balcony, and a wardrobe that would put any fashion designer to shame. His fur was sleek and shiny, a stunning swirl of amber, pumpkin, and cinnamon tones. His chest was pure snowy white, like fresh Vermont cream, and all four paws looked like he'd stepped into tiny clouds. Even the tip of his tail was dipped in white, like a painter had touched it with a brush. Jasper was known not just for his excellent grooming and tidy whiskers, but also for his incredible sense of style. He knew exactly what to wear for any occasion, from lazy Sunday brunches to grand moonlight galas. Most mornings he could be found pacing his sunlit suite in smart olive corduroy slacks and a houndstooth jacket. For formal evenings he wore a navy velvet dinner coat with a silver acorn pin, and for special moonlit stargazing parties, a plum silk robe covered in swirling stardust patterns. But of all his attire, Jasper's favorite outfit was his set of sky blue silk pajamas, hand-stitched, custom fit, perfect for dreaming. One bright morning, Jasper awoke to the gentle sound of cardinals chirping outside his window. He stretched out his long paws, gave a satisfying yawn, and was just about to plan out breakfast, perhaps poached trout with a sprig of catnip, when he heard it. A small, awful rip. Jasper froze. His tail flicked in alarm. He glanced down and let out a dramatic sigh. His beloved pajamas had torn right across the seam. Feeling scandalized, he called for his assistant. "Whiskers," he meowed. In dashed Whiskers, a fluffy white Maine coon with a carrot-colored vest and an eager trot. His tail puffed with worry. "Oh no, sir," Whiskers gasped as he inspected the rib. "That's your only pair." Jasper nodded solemnly. "Indeed. A lesson, dear Whiskers. One must always be prepared with a spare." Whiskers suggested they simply visit Miss Lacey's pet boutique for a new pair. But Jasper shook his head, horrified. No. My pajamas aren't just clothes. They are crafted. The silk must come from the sleepiest silkworms in the whispering pines. The buttons, carved by the dreamkeeper himself, and the thread must be spun at the Temple of Peace by owl monks. Whiskers blinked. "Owl monks. Very calm owls," Jasper replied. A silence passed. Then Jasper's eyes sparkled. "You know, Whiskers, I haven't been on a proper outing in far too long. Why not collect everything ourselves?" "A pajama quest?" Whiskers asked, Whiskers twitching. "A pajama quest," Jasper confirmed with a proud flick of his tail. Within minutes, they were dressed and ready. Jasper had swapped into his tan walking slacks and forest green boots, while Whiskers looked sharp in his walnut brown hiking jacket. Together they stepped out into the crisp spring morning. They passed the cheerful pie shop, where warm blueberry aromas drifted out the window. They waved to the twins at the candy counter and paused for a moment to admire a tray of mini maple donuts. But they didn't stop long. Adventures wait for no one. Their first stop was the Pine Brook tram station. Right on time, the town's vintage red and gold tram rolled up with a friendly ding. Jasper and Whiskers hopped onto the open back platform as the tram clanged gently into motion. The view from the tram was perfect. The little houses of Pine Brook Hollow scrolled by like scenes from a storybook, past the craft store, past the quilting barn, past the musician's porch with the ever-playing banjo. Everything felt calm and hopeful, like the beginning of something very good. The tram turned toward the tallest part of town, High Hill Ridge. That's where the observatory stood. Not many folks went there, except on stargazing nights. But Jasper knew it was where he would find the Dreamkeeper, also known as the Baron of Dreams, the only one who could provide the dream buttons for his pajamas. Up, up, up chugged the tram. The trees thinned. The air cooled. Finally, the tram creaked to a stop at the very top of the hill, right outside a round brick building with a shiny copper dome and a telescope sticking out like a wizard's wand. Jasper straightened his jacket. Let's visit the Baron. The observatory was wrapped in ivy. With a graceful leap and an encouraging mew, Jasper led Whiskers up the leafy side. Whiskers climbed carefully, trying not to look down. They reached a tiny cat-sized window just under the dome. Jasper knocked with 3 soft taps, 2 sharp ones, and a final scratch. The window creaked open by itself. Inside, the room was no bigger than a walk-in closet, but it glittered like treasure. The walls were gold. The ceiling shimmered with tiny glass stars. The sunlight made the entire room dance with color. And in the center, seated on a miniature throne of embroidered pillows, was a very old, very skinny silver tabby. His whiskers were long as kite strings, and his eyes twinkled with mischief and moonlight. Jasper, the Baron purred. It's been ages. With a flourish, Jasper offered a silver tin of sardines. The Baron's eyes lit up. They sat cross-legged on the velvet carpet, sharing sardines and gossiping about the latest neighborhood scandals, such as the mysterious disappearance of Mrs. Butterbean's slipper and whether the Johnson's tabby was secretly a raccoon in disguise. When the last sardine was gone, the Baron rose, shuffled to his throne, and opened a secret drawer beneath it. He pulled out a small velvet pouch and handed it to Jasper. Guaranteed peaceful dreams, he said with a wink. Just don't use 2 in one night unless you want to dream of talking furniture. Jasper bowed deeply. Much obliged, dear Baron. With that, the cats climbed out the window and, instead of going down, padded up the observatory dome. From the very top, the whole world stretched before them. Blue ridges, scattered farms, forests thick as green frosting. There, Jasper said, pointing with his paw. Whispering pines, that's where the silkworms are. He pulled a tidy little package from his coat and unwrapped it to reveal a parachute made just for cats. Whiskers' ears twitched. We're jumping? He asked. Float gliding, Jasper corrected, already attaching the straps. They linked tails, took a breath, ran, and leapt. The parachute opened like a flower catching the wind. Below them the forest swayed gently. Above, the sky was wide and bright. Jasper closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the wind in his fur. Their pajama quest had truly begun. The parachute floated like a giant maple leaf on the wind, carrying Jasper and Whiskers gently down toward the forest below. The mountains rolled out all around them, their peaks dusted with the snow and their valleys carpeted in green. It was quiet up there, peaceful in a way you could only feel when you were flying. Down, down they drifted, until the trees of the whispering pines began to rise up beneath them, their thick emerald branches rustling in the breeze. These weren't ordinary trees. Their needles shimmered with a soft silver sheen, and the air smelled of sweet sap and wild mint. "Hold on," Jasper mewed as they reached the treetops. With a soft thwomp, they landed in the highest branches of a particularly tall pine, its limbs so wide they could walk across them like tight ropes. The parachute fluttered down behind them, caught gently on a knot of needles. Whiskers stood carefully, brushing pine fluff off his vest. "Are you sure this is the right place?" Jasper gave an elegant sniff. "Absolutely. These are silkworm trees. You can smell the sleepiness." Whiskers sniffed too. It did smell dreamy, a little like lavender, a little like warm socks, and a lot like nap time. They padded along a branch until Jasper suddenly paused. "There," he whispered. Nestled in silky nests along the branches were dozens, no, hundreds of silkworms, each snoozing in a shimmering cocoon. The worms came in every color imaginable: plum, coral, lime, vanilla, even one that looked like polished copper. And yet, Jasper's eyes settled on just one. It was pale blue, almost translucent, and shaped like a little sleepy comma curled up next to the trunk. A breeze made its silky threads shimmer like morning fog. It snored. Jasper stepped forward and cleared his throat with great dignity. "Excuse me, my dear silkworm," he said in his smoothest voice. "Might we trouble you for a sheet of your finest silk?" The silkworm stirred slowly, opened two sleepy eyes and blinked at them. It looked at Jasper, then at Whiskers, then at the small silver coffee tin Jasper held in his paw. The silkworm perked up immediately. "I thought so." Jasper smiled. The silkworm reached back into its cocoon, rummaged for a moment, and pulled out a folded piece of silk, the color of a cloud, right before sunrise. It handed the silk over with a yawn and an appreciative hum for the coffee. Jasper bowed low. "May your naps be endless and your threads unbroken." Whiskers offered a grateful wave as they made their way down the tree, hopping from branch to branch until they finally reached the forest floor. The ground was soft and springy beneath their paws, blanketed in moss and pine needles. Everything was quiet, so quiet you could hear your own heartbeat. Whiskers was just about to ask where they were headed next when Jasper lifted a paw. "Listen." Whiskers tilted his ears forward. In the distance, faint and musical, came the sound of running water. "This way," Jasper said, patting softly in its direction. They walked through patches of wild flowers and under tall, arching ferns. Birds flitted above them. At one point, a turtle slowly crossed their path, gave them a wise nod, and continued on. Finally, they reached a stream. It wasn't wide, but it was fast, bubbling over smooth river stones and shimmering like glass. The water smelled like melted snow and wild mint, and in the sun, it glittered with flecks of gold. Jasper looked around and found what he needed: a plant with big round leaves, strong and waxy like a dinner plate. He plucked two and handed one to Whiskers. "Boats," he said simply. They laid the leaves in the water, gently balanced their weight, and with a tiny push, floated off down the stream like sailors on a very calm sea. The ride was dreamy. Tall trees arched overhead, forming a leafy tunnel that let shafts of sunlight peek through in golden beams. Birds chirped lazily from the branches, and now and then, a dragonfly zipped past like a tiny blue helicopter. Neither cat spoke for a long while. There was something about the stream that made words feel too heavy. It was the kind of place where the world felt slowed down, where thoughts flowed like the water itself. Eventually, the trees thinned and the stream curved into a quiet glen. There, the water fanned out across smooth stones, forming a tiny beach of soft gray pebbles. Their leaf boats drifted to the shore. The cats hopped off, careful to keep their paws dry. Ahead of them stood something extraordinary, a round stone structure, stacked high and wide, with smooth stones in shades of ivory, ash, and moss. It had no roof, only an open sky above. A temple of peace, Jasper whispered. Even Whiskers fell silent. The place felt peaceful, as if the very air hummed with calm. The kind of calm that sank into your fur and made your bones feel lighter. They batted inside. It was cooler here, and the stones echoed slightly beneath their paws. The center of the temple held nothing, just space and sky and stillness. And then, out of the air itself, floated a small owl. She was white and gray with flecks of gold around her eyes, and she flapped down soundlessly from somewhere high above, landing gently before them. In her beak she held a thread, not a simple string, but a glowing silvery thread that shimmered like moonlight. Jasper bowed. The owl bowed back. They stared at one another for a moment. Then Jasper made a soft hooting sound. The owl responded with a coo and a flutter. They were speaking in the language of peace, a language older than time. The owl blinked once, then gave a soft whistle. Suddenly, from all corners of the temple, came dozens of tiny owls. No bigger than tennis balls, they zipped and looped through the air, like sewing needles with wings. Jasper nodded and opened his satchel, pulling out the silk and the pouch of dream buttons. The owls got to work. Some of them unrolled the silk and measured it against Jasper with tiny golden tape measures. Others snipped it with their beaks. A few unspooled more thread from the walls of the temple, thread that seemed to glow from within, and began stitching. Jasper stood perfectly still, arms stretched, while owls sewed right onto his fur like little tailors. Whiskers watched in awe until 3 owls landed on his shoulders and began measuring him. "Wait, me too," he squeaked. Jasper grinned. "Can't have my assistant underdressed." Within minutes, both cats were dressed in pajama perfection. Soft, glowing blue silk that shimmered like twilight. The buttons gleamed gently. The seams were stitched with peace thread, and the whole outfit felt like a lullaby. The owls fluttered back into the temple walls. The silence returned. Jasper let out a deep yawn. Whiskers rubbed his ears. "We should probably head home," Whiskers said, though he didn't sound convinced. "Later," Jasper murmured, curling up on a warm stone. "Good idea," Whiskers whispered, already curling beside him. Their paws tucked under, their tails wrapped around them like ribbons, and their ears slowly relaxed. The wind whispered softly through the stones, and the 2 cats drifted into the deepest, coziest sleep either of them had ever known. They dreamed of blue parachutes, sleepy silkworms, and moonlit owls sewing pajamas in midair. And somewhere, high on High Hill Ridge, the Baron of Dreams smiled gently, keeping watch over them both. Jasper awoke to the scent of fresh morning dew and wild thyme drifting through the temple of peace. The soft breeze that rustled between the stone walls was cool, but his silk pajamas kept him warm and comfortable, just the right temperature. It was the kind of sleep that made your whole body feel new. He stretched out slowly, his front paws reaching forward, his back arched with a soft crackle of joints. A gentle purr rose in his throat. Beside him, Whiskers let out a long snore. One paw flopped dramatically over his face. "Rise and shine," Jasper whispered, nudging him gently with his tail. Whiskers blinked up at the sky. "Did we sleep through the whole day?" "Only a bit of it," Jasper said, checking the angle of the sun. "Just enough to feel rested. Now, one last piece remains." Whiskers sat up, his silky pajamas glowing in the dappled sunlight. "The top hat," he guessed. "No," Jasper smiled. "The buttons we already have. The silk is sewn. The thread was a gift. But there's one more ingredient." Whiskers blinked. "There's more?" Jasper gave a regal nod. "The final touch. The dream scent. A proper set of pajamas must be perfumed with the rarest, most restful aroma. And for that, we need to find the mellow root flower." Whiskers tilted his head. "Sounds nice. Where does it grow?" "Only one place," Jasper said. "The Misty Bluffs." Whiskers narrowed his eyes. "You mean the foggy cliffs, where the wind sings, and the ground hums like a cello string?" "That's the one." Whiskers shivered in his silk. "Cozy," Jasper chuckled. "Come on. If we start now, we'll catch the morning lift." The two cats padded out of the temple, back to the little stream where their leaf boats still waited. The stream had quieted during the night, its waters now flowing slow and thoughtful. Once again, Jasper and Whiskers stepped carefully into their leaf boats. The sunlight made the surface of the water glow amber as they drifted downstream, this time in silence, savoring the stillness of the morning. After a time, the stream curved away into the forest, and the leaf boats came to a gentle stop against a muddy bank where a wooden dock stuck out over the water like a cat's tail. A small weathered sign hung from a crooked post. "Misty Bluff Tram, departures every hour, weather permitting." They climbed out and shook the water from their paws. A silver bell jingled above them, and not long after, a strange-looking vehicle rolled up from a hidden track in the hillside. It looked like a cross between a cable car and a floating bathtub. It was powered by a spinning windmill on its roof, and it hovered a few inches above the rails. Inside sat an old opossum in a thick knitted scarf and wire glasses. "Tickets?" she asked politely. Jasper handed her a velvet pouch containing 3 shiny buttons, polished acorns from the tree of contentment. The opossum examined them, nodded approvingly, and motioned them aboard. As the tram climbed the narrow cliffside tracks, mist thickened around them. The world grew softer, quieter. It was like riding through a dream. Even the birds stopped chirping, and the trees grew sparse, their trunks white and smooth like bones. Then, at last, the tram reached the top of the bluff. The misty bluffs stretched out before them, rolling fields of tall grass, swaying gently under a sheet of ever-moving fog. Far off, the sound of wind made a low hum, like a lullaby being whispered through the rocks. "This is it," Jasper murmured. The cat stepped off the tram and immediately felt it. The stillness, the weight of the place. Every breath of air was thick with quiet. The ground hummed beneath their paws, like an old sleeping bear snoring deep in the earth. They walked slowly, eyes scanning the mist, and then There it was. A small clearing opened between two driftwood-colored boulders. In the center of the clearing stood a single bush with velvet green leaves and 5 pale purple flowers blooming on top. They seemed to glow faintly through the fog. "The mellow root," Jasper whispered. Whiskers stepped forward and sniffed the air. "It smells like vanilla, rain, and naps." Jasper moved closer, then stopped. "Wait." Whiskers froze. "What?"